flash ambient blending or flambient. We've got this bedroom here. I will apply my internal preset. Essentially all we're doing with that is dropping the highlights, boosting the shadows, and adding a little bit of vibrance and saturation, and just sort of dropping these shadows down here a little bit as well. So I'm going to select both of those, right click and go edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. And we wait. Here we are. Okay, so we've got this layer here, which is our ambient layer, and then I don't know why it does that to me, and we've got this one here which is our flash layer. I'm just labeling so that you can tell what layer I've got selected all the time, make it nice and easy. Okay, ambient, and then we've got our flash layer. You can see out the windows nice and easy. Okay, now probably the easiest way to blend this is going to be with a luminosity or a color mask. So we're going to go select color range, and we're going to select any area that's blown out, like this window or the lights or anything like that. And you essentially want to adjust this fuzziness slider until only the parts that you want to mask are selected. So we don't want any of the roof like that. There we go. That's looking pretty good. Okay, now you can see that it's selected the lights as well. That's going to be fine in this scenario, but you can also go through and deselect the lights. So what we're going to do now is go select, modify, expand. We're going to expand by 50 pixels, and select, modify, feather by 50 pixels. Now, doing it this way, if you have a higher res or lower res photo, you're going to want to boost that by either more or less for the expansion and the feathering. But for this example, that will work quite well. Now, hit this little mask button, and that's essentially masked the opposite way of what we want. So we're just going to click into the mask, hit invert, and hit OK. Right, so now we've essentially got an ambient shot here with a window pull. Now what we want to do is change this ambient layer to luminosity, because we don't want any of the color from it, because it'll all be incorrect. All we want is that natural sort of light level coming in. Now what we do want to do is get the levels, the light level and exposure of the two shots fairly even. That will stop any of this sort of funny haloing around the window. So filter, camera raw, we're going to get that exposure to around the 3/4 point. That's generally where I like it. That looks pretty good. And just because it's convenient, we're going to fix the white balance for this shot as well. Just sort of clicking around wherever it's getting a really strong light source. You can see if we click over here, that works quite well. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Now if we grab the flash shot and we go camera raw filter and we get exposure similar all again. So something like that. That looks good. Now same thing again. We do need to get the white balance correct. Just keep clicking around on a white or a neutral area until it all looks fairly faithful to what it was. Now it is looking a little green. There's a few ways that you can fix that. You can either adjust the tint just there. There we go. That's back to normal. Okay, so we've now got accurate colors because we're using the colors from the flash layer. We've got a good amount of light because we're using that ambient luminosity layer, and then we've got our window pull. You can see here we've got some sort of dark halos around the lights, or that one's light and then that one's dark. That is purely because of the flash exposure being uneven, and these are areas from the flash exposure that have been blended in. I would have been pointing the flash up here above my head somewhere, so this one's brighter, whereas this one being darker than from the flash, further from the flash is darker, wouldn't have been blended the same. So what we're going to do is actually cut these areas out of the mask. So select white, and we're going to brush these areas away. And we're just going to keep the ambient exposure for those because it's fine. Lights don't need to be masked in. Okay, now that looks good. Now while we're here, if you want, you can sort of bring back any of the other ambient areas that you wanted in the photo. Like bring some of those curtains in. Oh. Okay. All in all, that is looking pretty good. So let's go image, alright, layer, flatten, let's straighten the image, so camera raw, we'll go down to geometry, we'll use our guided tool, and we're going to get guided off that corner there, and this one over here. Alright, that image will be nice and straight now, that looks good. Now the last thing I generally like to do with some of these flash ambient blends is brighten up the ceiling a little bit, or desaturate the ceiling I should say. So let's just mask off this ceiling. Doesn't have to be anything perfect, it's just for the purposes of this video, so that will do for that. Filter, camera raw filter, and what we're going to do is boost the exposure by the tiniest bit and drop the saturation and the vibrance. There we go. You just want enough to show that the ceiling is pure white and the walls are actually coloured. So you can see that it's like a sort of light grey colour or like a warm grey colour and then a white ceiling. And that's done. It doesn't take too long.